Yes, guys, you know what time it is. It's your boy David at the Irish Hotspur, Ireland's #1 Spurs fan, bringing you what went wrong with yesterday's North London derby, the fans' feud. Basically, what I've done, lads, is I've gathered up everyone's opinion over the last day or two, and I've put it all in together for this show today. And I want to welcome Matt Hayes, Bobspur, and Bobby, aka Bobby Singh, and Mr. Cracknell. How are you keeping, lads?
All good, David. Thanks for having us on.
Very good, mate. Well,
as good as can be, lads. As good as can be. But look, first of all, a few formalities to run through before we get the lads' thoughts. So look, I'll shout out to channel members. Wayne Winter, Brian Daigle, Will Stewart, Matthew Collins, Wayne Bonner, Elliot Walsh, Jordan Stevens, Spartan 7 Gaming, Adam Fox, and Arthur Everett. Gold members, make sure you get in contact with me at the Irish Y on Twitter so that we can sit down and record your Spurs story. And make sure you smash a like on the stream. Make sure you smash that subscribe button. Help me get to 1.5k within 5 months. I'm blown away by the sport. Thank you very, very much. But look, we're going to get into it. Matty, what's your thoughts on yesterday's derby game?
It's typical Spurs, and it pains me to say it, but I had an uneasy feeling going into that game yesterday, and it seems to be a common trend in the North London derby at this rate that the team that's confident going into it, the team that has that air of positivity about them, tend to be the team that come out of there with their tail between their legs. And in the past, it's worked out well for us when we've managed to get points against Arsenal that perhaps we wouldn't have expected to. But as the tides have turned in recent years, I think the bragging rights that we have in finishing above Arsenal so consistently in the last 5 or so years are damaged a bit by the fact that we do lose derbies. And look, I know it's the first time in 6 that we did lose, but we went into that game 5 wins on the bounce, 9 goals in our last 3 Premier League games. And I know they weren't the strongest of opposition, but going into a derby with that confidence, with that form, with Gareth Bale, Harry Kane, both fit and firing, we should have come out of there with the 3 points, and we didn't. And the fact that we went in on such a good run of form and such a good mentality, and we came out of there with our captain saying we played with a lot of fear, I think goes to show that the problems at this Spurs team aren't going to be solved by a small run of form. It's not going to be a few wins in the bounce that turns everything around and all of a sudden has us back well and truly in a top 4 race. I don't think we're completely out of that just yet, but from first minute to last yesterday was not good enough. And again, we saw this consistent theme that we're seeing within the Spurs season, whereby when it's too late, we start coming out and we start playing. We saw Kane hit the post. We had Sanchez have a shot cleared off the line. We had another few half chances in there as well. I think Dele Alli should have scored that header that he couldn't even get on the end of for Kane's cross, but it just was not good enough. Everything went wrong. And I do think Jose is partly to blame, but I think the players have to take more responsibility for yesterday, because at the end of the day, it's a derby. What you do on the pitch is everything, and those players didn't give enough.
100%. Well, Matty, hopefully the question as I put to you today will get out everything exactly how you feel. Mr. Cracknell, what are your thoughts on yesterday's game?
It was abject, wasn't it? It was just abject surrender. And, I've been going over the Spurs since 75, 76 season. So, I've seen a lot of years there. Spurs will lose games. Every team loses games. It's part of football. Nobody goes through winning every game. They just don't. So It's the manner of defeat. So I take a defeat yesterday on the chin. The derby is a great leveller, no matter how either side's doing. But what I can't accept is just that abject performance. It was woeful. And it's odd because across social media, I said to people, like, where do you see the blame line? And I don't think I've ever seen such a 50-50 split since the Brexit vote in the UK, to be honest. It's Mourinho, it's the players, it's Mourinho, it's the players. So there's this real split amongst the fan base as to who was to blame. But I saw Alistair Gold today put a report up, who was at the game reporting, and he said the whole way through the game, Mourinho and Sacramento were screaming, push, get up, get the ball up. They were willing the players to attack. So I don't quite know where the narrative of Mourinho set them up to play defensively is coming from, because that certainly isn't what Alistair Gold was reporting that was coming from the touchline. So I don't know. It was just the players yesterday. It's just everything seemed off and wrong, and I just don't know where that performance came from. It's unfathomable. I think you have to give a certain amount of credit to Arsenal in that they played out of their skins. So I think they played to the best of their abilities, and we probably played to the worst of our
Right,
abilities. So, and really, they squeaked past us in some respects. The actual will and determination of like the sheer want of the game, they blew us away. But
yeah,
for all of that, they never absolutely trounced us, which they should have done. And you know, for the width of a post and a goal line clearance, there's a couple of goals there. So I don't know, a tough one, but the performance completely unacceptable.
100%. I fully agree with you. And again, questions I'm going to put to you throughout the show, you'll be able to expand on exactly what you were saying there. And also, you'll be a great man for the Spurs story if you ever want to come on and do it with some of the games that you have seen. And, you know, it'd be great to hear. And I don't mean this as any disrespect, but from the older generation and from their times, because there's a lot of people calling from it. But, Bobby, I am going to get to you and ask you your thoughts on the game. I just want to welcome a few people to the stream and get to 2 super chats before I do. We have Everything Football. We have Dan Davenport. We have Shamu Van Schlong. We have Mr. Shepherd. We have Inot Nurse, Mr. K. We have Victor HM. We have Jordan Stevens, channel member. Big up, Jordan. We have Dtrex Kane. We have Mr. Kevin Murray. We have a super chat here from Paul Brown. He says, history of North London Derby. You play with pride for the crest. Not possible position, points, etc. Fault 90% players, 10% Jose. No desire, want, grit, shown, shambolic. Mr. Cracknell, what do you think on what Paul Brown said here?
I think he's somewhere near right there, to be honest, because I see a lot of the failure lying with the players. But then Jose doesn't come out of this covered in glory because, you know, Doherty was having some real problems yesterday. He never addressed that issue at all. He, you know, that's something he really needed to look at. Tactically and positionally, he should have maybe moved a few things around to try and combat where they were getting at us. And he didn't seem to sort of react in game to where we was having some big problems. So, but ultimately, even if he had done that, it may have been a little bit of changing the deck chairs round on the Titanic, to be honest, because just wherever you seem to put players yesterday, none of them seem to want to have the heart for the game, like, you know. So no, I think Paul's pretty spot on there.
Big up, Paul, and thank you so much for the super chat, lads. Everyone else, get your super chats in. It really does help me. Basically, you can help you. The Trevi stream, basically, are going full time, so keep them up. And we have Wayne Bonner, and then I have another super chat, and I'm going to put it to you, Bobby, and then you can share your thoughts on North London Derby. So welcome, Wayne Bonner, channel member, Fiona Harris, Simon Cohen. We also have Will Stewart here, channel member. And also, guys, quickly, if you want a membership, the link is in the description below, and there's a pinned tweet with the link for the memberships. Dan and Bobby, he says, great panel, lads. Players and Jose have to take blame. Unforgivable mentality for the starting 11. But Jose got tactically outplayed on the right side.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I think it was a big chance missed yesterday, guys. You know, you can't underestimate how the importance of Arsenal having no fans. You know, we probably won't get that again to have that on our side, because I think we all agree, in North London Derby, no matter what you think about the Arsenal fans, they turn up in a North London Derby, and it's probably caught us out a couple of times. To not have any fans there yesterday, that was on our side. But it's another chance missed, full stop. You know, we always tend to be let down in the bigger games. You know, Liverpool, Chelsea's. We just, for some reason, and normally a day after, I don't know about you guys, but normally a day after a defeat, you can sit down, analyse it, and think, you know what, maybe it's because of this, or maybe it's because of that. I can't work it out. I cannot work out why players for my team, Tottenham Hotspur, could not get themselves up for a game against Arsenal. No idea. And to be fair, he's right. Both Jose and players are to blame. Players are to blame. They shouldn't need a G up against in a North London derby. They play for the crest, like the gentleman said. That should be big enough. But apparently, like you just mentioned, Richard, if Jose has been saying push, and they weren't, two ways of looking at it. either the players don't have the tactical nous or the intelligence to push,
Yeah.
or is it a question of Jose, who's called out the players a couple of times? You know, it's gone on record saying they're not done as I've asked them to. Does that say more about the player's mentality, or does that say more about his authoritative figure? Why aren't they doing what he's asking them to? So there's two ways of looking at it. But yesterday, I think if you're talking about the blame game, everyone's to blame yesterday, and you can't. No one can get away with it. No one can get away with it.
Yeah, 100%. And we have another super chat here from Will Stewart. He says, "Did you see Alistair Gould's article today where he says Jose and the coaches were screaming press more than he ever has?" Yeah, 100%. We all seen it. Mr. Cracknell alluded to it as well. And you know, this brings me on to a point that we'll be talking a bit later on in the shows about mentality and certain players that are still here that were under the Pochettino era that still bottled big games. But big up Will Stewart for the super chat. I really do appreciate it. And welcome to the stream, Arthur Everett and the Yid Kid. But look, Matty. Matty. Were we set up to attack or were we set up to defend yesterday? Now, I can accept sitting back for the opening 10 minutes. I can accept that. Keep it tight. It's a North London derby. But what's your opinion? Because it's one that is dividing the fan base at the minute. You know, some people are saying that Jose can't rely on his defenders to defend, and he knows that, so he wouldn't have done it. You know, Alistair Gould's article came out today about that as well, saying he was telling the team to press and be on the front foot. Or is he lying? Were we set up to defend?
I have no doubt whatsoever that Jose Mourinho put those players out there to attack. Now, the fact that he set them up like that does not mean that the players are the sole reason that didn't happen. It could have been a simple case of Mikel Arteta simply out-tacticking, or out-tacticking, is that a word? It's not a word. His tactics has been better than Jose Mourinho's. It is now. We've made it up. But it could have been a case of the players simply not being able to get out of their own half. Now, I do have the words here from Alistair Gould. He said, watching Mourinho on the sidelines on Sunday, you can see how frustrated he gets with the lack of movement forward into space from his team. He is constantly yelling his players' names, instructing them to press higher up the pitch, and his assistant Joao Sacramento shouts press more than any other word in the English language. You have to believe that from one of the most reliable Spurs sources out there who was at the game and would have heard Jose Mourinho with his own ears. Now, as I said, that doesn't necessarily mean the players weren't listening to that. It could have simply been a case that Arsenal had us penned back. That's worrying in its own regard, but it's not as worrying as the players simply not playing for the manager or not listening to the manager. Now, looking at this tactically, why I think Jose Mourinho did set out this team to attack, there's two reasons. The first one is, if you want to park the bus against Arsenal, a team who notoriously are stronger down their left-hand side and force the ball out to the likes of Bukayo Saka and Kieran Tierney, if you want to park the bus against that, you do not play Gareth Bale and Tongi Ndombele ahead of Matt Doherty. You either play Steven Bergwijn on the right-hand side to track back and double up on Kieran Tierney, or you play Moussa Sissoko in the right side of the double pivot so he can double up with Sergio Aurier, as we did against Manchester City at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium earlier in the season, and as we did against Chelsea and Arsenal in the two games after that. Now, the other reason I don't think Jose wanted this team to sit back was the formation out of possession. Typically, when we do park that bus, again, we can go back to all those same games. When we do play that low block, it's a 4, and it's a 2. And the 2 up there is Kane and Ndombele in that high press with our 2 centre mids sitting inside our wingers. At no stage in that game yesterday did we see that formation come into play. When Arsenal had possession, we were keeping a high line. And, you know, that's not how you play a low block. You're going to sit a lot deeper than that. And also the inclusion of Davinson Sanchez in that team over Eric Dyer tells me that we did not want to play defensive football. If we are going to put 10 men behind the ball, Eric Dyer is the man that you want in there heading the ball out of danger. But if we're playing that high line, Davinson Sanchez is the man who has the recovery pace to deal with the likes of Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang, who we thought would have been playing in that game, even then going down to Lacazette, Emile Smith-Rowe, Saka and Martin Odegaard in there as well. So I honestly do feel as though Jose wanted this team to attack. But as I said, it could be the simple case that Mikel Arteta knew how we were going to play and managed to nullify the threat that we did have on that counter-attack. Now, Son getting subbed off after 19 minutes would have played a massive part in our regression, perhaps in the way we were playing, in our width, in our depth in the pitch as well. But I suppose just to simply answer your question, I think Jose wanted to play attacking football yesterday. It just didn't quite work out.
Yeah, 100%. I agree with you. Look, when you look at the way he set up like he did previous games, the 4-2-3-1, the players he put in there, we all would have asked for them. I fully agree with you. I do believe we were set up there. I think maybe are the players tired? Could be. They played more games than any other team in the top 6 this season. Probably more games than any team in the Premier League this season. You know what I mean? So there could be an element of tiredness to it, but I genuinely do believe they were sent out there to attack. I'm going to pass this next question on to Bob, and then I have a good question for Mr. Cracknell. Bob, first of all, sorry, Fiona Harris here with Super Chat. She says, great panel. Keep up the good work, lads. Thank you so much, Fiona. I really do appreciate it. But Bob, did we show Arsenal too much respect yesterday?
It was, again, like Matty says, you know, if they were set up to attack, I know you've said as well, if they were set up for attack, then again, it comes down to, in a way, putting what my thoughts are about Jota to one side, and Dave and Matty, you know, what my thoughts are.
Yeah.
He's got it wrong then, hasn't he? Even if his mentality was to attack this Arsenal team, and he's done his homework and is methodical in doing his homework, like Mate said, and I was going to say exactly the same. You don't put Bale and Doherty there alongside Ndombele. There's an attacking intent, but there's an attacking intent with a bit of cleverness there, you know, with a bit of thought behind your tactics. And no matter how you look at it, unfortunately, apart from the players not doing, I absolutely disagree and cannot understand why the players, for any reason, even if the tactics were wrong and they felt it was wrong, it was against Arsenal. I fully do not accept that they could not get themselves up for an Arsenal game, but it's quite evident yesterday they did, and that's the biggest question for me. That's the burning question for me. What is the reason? There's only two people who can answer that. Jose about the managerial tactics and the mentality, and the players exactly why they performed the way they did. All we can do is speculate and obviously put our opinions across. But did we give Arsenal too much credit? I think Arsenal might have been pleasantly surprised the amount of, or the lack of press we did yesterday. The 5 consecutive wins, again, I'll state, they're 5 games that we should be winning with our firepower anyway. We should be winning those 5 games. But what it has done is built up a bit of confidence, a bit of momentum, and for players to think, hey, this is a right way forward now. This is a right team, right tactically we're correct now. So to set off the way we did for that first 50, throughout the whole game, would have been a big shock to Arsenal, because I honestly thought they're going to come out attacking formation to a degree they did, but why not press? 7 minutes in, I was tweeting saying, "Where's our press gone? Where's our press?" And say what you want about Arsenal. Earlier on in the week, I was doing a combined 11, and I said for the first time in 30 odd years, I can easily pick a Tottenham 11, and argue the case for having even now. I say all our players who played yesterday, Doherty's a question mark, are better than the Arsenal players. They are. Tactically, you to put the game to one side, tactically, they are individually. Ndombele is better than Partey. Xhaka, Pierre, that's no competition there whatsoever. So it's a big question, and yes, we gave Arsenal way too much credit. Where has that come from? And that's my burning question. Did the players take it upon themselves? Oh, Jesus told us to attack, but we're not going to do that today. Why? Well, what does that say about the players and Jose? There was no reason to give Arsenal the credit that they got, mate. No.
We have played most games in Europe, but quickly here, Ronan O'Donnell, he says, thoughts on AFTV last night. Son, I know you asked beforehand, could you have a quick discussion on it? So just whatever you want to say there, quickly just get it out. Yeah,
disgrace. Absolutely disgrace. I know a lot of people, I've had a few comments back saying, well, you do exactly the same if Arsenal player went down, and they used Walcott as an example. A, we had our fans in, and B, there was a bit of banterism about it. He gave out the whole free, and we laughed back and we booed him, but it was a bit of banter there. For them to sit in an enclosed room and see Son get injured and celebrate like they've just scored a goal made me sick, and I thought it was out of order, in my opinion.
No, 100%. Well said. But look, I'm going to pass this next one on to you now, Mr. Cracknell. I hope you're ready.
Ready.
Jose lineup for me, I think was spot on. Apart from the right back, in my preview, I did say I didn't want Doherty to play because I did feel he was going to be exposed, and I did say if Arteta done his homework, he's going to attack that side. It's exactly what he'd done. But look, is it Jose's fault for picking Doherty over Aurier? But keep in mind that Aurier has also, throughout his Spurs career, made massive mistakes in big games. Or is it Doherty's fault for basically, you know, Jose has given him the opportunity and he hasn't repaid the faith. You know, he's an Arsenal fan. It's a dream for him to play at the Emirates. You know what I mean? So is it Jose's fault for picking him, or is it Doherty's fault for basically not repaying the manager's faith in him?
I wouldn't say it was Doherty's fault. I think he's having trouble adjusting and coming into the Spurs team. I was doing a clubhouse chat yesterday before the game, and we had a guest on now, and it was a little bit a friend of a cousin of a mate of mine works at the IRSFA, but the upshot was, and there was no reason for the lad to be sort of making this up, but he said a chat had been had with Doherty, and he said it was he was struggling to come to terms with the move from Wolves up to Spurs. And I can kind of get that because I've been to Molineux and it's a lovely stadium, but it's not the Tottenham stadium. Yeah. And when it comes to the training ground, I've been to the Spurs training ground. I went there to interview Bale a while ago, just after it opened. And it is jaw-dropping, absolutely jaw-dropping. Now, I've also been to West Ham's training ground, which is 3 muddy pitches and 2 porta cabins. So, you know, which a lot of the training grounds are. Some of them are nice. Some of them are awful, even for Premier League. Tottenham's training ground is another level. Now, I think he may just be a lad of a personality that hasn't seen that and stepped up to it. He's come to it and it's maybe overawed him and just got a little bit too much for him to all take in as a person and a personality within the player that we've got. He also plays a very different role to what he was playing at Wolves as well. And it may be something that his game's not suited to, but they thought he could be, and it hasn't quite worked out. Sometimes players will come in and there will just be square pegs in round holes and it doesn't work out for them. And at the moment, it just isn't. So I don't think there's any of him not trying. I just think he's struggling to find his place and find his feet at the club at present. With Aurier, again, you know, we all saw in the Amazon documentary, you're a penalty waiting to happen. Yeah. And he is.
He's done it in Liverpool. He's done it against Liverpool, Leicester. He's made mistakes. Palace. You know, he's made big mistakes this season as well in big games. Yeah.
But to be fair, in the last 3 or 4 games leading up to yesterday, he was actually much better, much more disciplined. But, you know, a lot of games again. So that whole position now is a problem for Spurs. We've not got a player good enough to cope. And it's either Doherty or Aurier, and both of them have some real failings. So it's a position that absolutely needs addressing. And they saw it yesterday. They saw it was our Achilles heel, went for it and got some good purchase out of it, didn't they, really? So big problem that needs addressing in the next window.
100%.
Dave, can I just follow on from that, mate, and ask you?
Of course you can.
Is it? Don't you think it could possibly be with Doherty? His best isn't just good enough. It's a quality thing rather than a struggling thing playing out of position. Because if you're good enough, you'll adapt, and you certainly adapt when you're 3/4 way through the season. Don't you guys think, or do you guys think it's possibly a simple case of his best isn't good enough? His qualities isn't there for a Tottenham.
Could be right, Bob. I think he could be the Harry Winks of that fullback position, couldn't he? Where Winks, again, who seems a lovely lad and gives it all he's got, but it's just not enough. He isn't an Ndombele and he isn't a Højbjerg. You know, he's just not good enough for where we want to go and where we want to be. So it might just be, and that's no fault of Doherty's at all. If he's come in and he's giving 100%, that's all you can ask for, isn't it? You know,
of course,
what infuriates me is players that are not giving their 100% and can be better. That they're the ones you need to get angry with.
Yeah,
100%. I fully agree with you. And look, for me, you can sit here and say it's Jose's fault for playing Doherty, but you know, there was a big split in the fan base before the game. Half of the fan base thought Doherty was improving and was playing well. Half of us thought he wasn't. At the end of the day, it's not Jose's fault that he has 2 calamitous right backs at the minute to pick from. That's not his fault. But look, I have a super chat here, and then I have a question for you, Matty. Spandan Samaran, absolutely love the name. It's a great rhyme. Look at Liverpool. It took Klopp taking out 90% of the team to change the bottling mentality of the team. This problem is historical. What's new? No, look, 100%. I fully agree with you. And look, we also have to remember that we also gave Poch a lot of time to get rid of players out of the team that actually wanted him sacked because of his training methods. And he was allowed time to get rid of them all. We have to allow Jose the time to stamp his authority on the team. Whether we've left it too late into his tenure because we know he's short term, that's another discussion for another day. But big up Spandan Samaran for the super chat.
Yes,
and everyone else follow his lead. Get the questions in. The chat is flying. As you know, I try to get everyone's comments up on screen because I know not everyone's in a fortunate position putting a super chat. But put your super chat in, and when we will stop what we're doing to talk about it. But Matty, look, as bad as Doherty was yesterday, he never got any help from Bale tracking back whatsoever, which meant Højbjerg was pulled out in the middle at times to go and cover that and help Doherty, which meant then, like, you know, we were being overrun in midfield as well. They were winning the midfield battle because of that. And look, it completely took us out of shape. So look, should we be scrutinising Gareth Bale's performance a lot more as well? Because one thing we can say about Jose is that the players are well schooled in defence, and they're well schooled in the art of tracking back, and they're well schooled in what you get out of it when everyone's doing their job. Do you know what I mean? And working as a team and helping your teammates out. So as bad as Doherty was, do we also need to be taking a long, hard look at Gareth Bale for the collapse down that right-hand side? Because not only did he pull Højbjerg out the middle, but he just allowed Doherty to be exposed.
I think there are 2 ways of looking at this. And the first one is Gareth Bale is not going to be that player who's going to be tracking back and doing the dirty work, partly because he is, in some regard, a flair player. I think no matter what you say, no matter how much you can talk about Bale loving Tottenham, I think given what he has achieved throughout his career, and the fact that him coming back to Spurs seems to be some sort of like last hurrah for him, I do think there will always be an element of him kind of thinking, I'm better than the rest of these players. And I'm not saying that's in a way of like a conscious mentality that he has. I think it could be ultimately a subconscious thing where, you know, if the ball is going back towards Matt Doherty and he's standing behind Lucas Moura, he might be thinking Lucas Moura should be the player going back to that. I think, as I said earlier, with the way Jose set up, I do think it was an attacking lineup, and he had attacking intent in the way he selected that team. And I'm sure Gareth Bale before the game was told, maybe you don't have to track back as much because we do like to catch Arsenal in the counter-attack. And with the cover that we had back there, with that double pivot in midfield and the 4 who should be very capable defenders, I think we should have been able to keep out an Arsenal team that are really lacking in that attacking area, especially given Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang was pulled out of that team early on. In that same sort of view on this, I think if Jose had thought that was as much of a problem as the fans did, I think a very easy solution to that is put Lucas out on the right-hand side, sit Gareth Bale in the number 10, and Lucas will be running up and down that pitch for 90 minutes and he'll be helping Matt Doherty out. I do feel as though if Jose really did think that
what Lucas was doing in the middle.
Exactly.
Because, again, it's...
Sorry, you know, it could definitely take away from that, but at the end of the day, there's no point in having players who can, you know, make that transition work a little bit quicker. They can be that creative spark if we're going to be exploited every time we are on the back foot. At the end of the day, if you don't concede, you can't lose a game. So that should be, and is within Jose Mourinho's philosophy, the number one importance in that. Now, the other way you can look at this is Gareth Bale is whipped off 10 minutes into the second half, and he was absolutely furious. Something could have changed at halftime. Oh, go ahead.
He had every right to be whipped off, though. You know, like he offered absolutely nothing yesterday. All he offered was a step over, across with the outside of the boot, and a dummy. That's all he offered yesterday. The thing is, like, I fully understand what you're saying, Matty, and I fully agree with you. He's brought in for his attacking influence. But when you're seeing your teammate is being overrun like that, surely for 10, 15 minutes, you can tuck in until we can get a grip on the game. With all of his experience as well, he should be leading by example.
Look, that is another way to look at it. I suppose kind of draws into my second point as well. he's that more experienced player, the one who perhaps should be the kind of man who will say, all right, lads, let's just sit tight 5-10 minutes to kind of get the flow of this game back in our own favour. Let's calm it down, get our foot in the ball again, and then maybe we can try and build from there. But maybe Jose was telling him not to do that. Maybe in that first half he's saying keep up on top of Kieran Tierney, because look, it's one thing tracking Kieran Tierney back, but it's another thing keeping yourself up in that space and maybe trying to hold Kieran Tierney out of those attacks. Now, credit to Arsenal, they were very brave in what they were doing in that they still pushed Kieran Tierney on. And, it didn't work if that is what Jose tried to do in order to try and exploit that space in behind. Because, look, we did this to Manchester City back in October, November. And it's the very same tactics from Jose Mourinho that I'm going to say Jose outers, but I mean the toxic fan base, the ones who want us to lose games just so Jose can be sacked and so on and so forth. The same ones who were saying it was outstanding that was happening back in October are the same ones saying these exact same tactics are the reason that Jose should be sacked. Now, what we did against Manchester City back in October when we beat them 2-0 at home is the way they typically play is João Cancelo, who plays in that left-back role, sits in the double pivot with Rodri, and then Kyle Walker steps in as a third centre-back. And what we did was we put Steven Berg, we swapped Heung-min Son to the right-hand side, and we kept him in that space. No matter how advanced or how narrow Cancelo got, we kept Son in that space, and Manchester City could not deal with it, because then Son making that run from out to in, Harry Kane picking the ball up deep and trying to get through the likes of Diaz and Stones. It worked, and Bergwijn as well, a massive influence in that game. It worked perfectly. But it comes back to it then, when that wasn't working and when Arsenal were still committing Kieran Tierney into those high areas and working with Bukayo Saka to absolutely obliterate Matt Doherty for 90 minutes, then Jose needs to adapt. And like I said, whether it was with Sissoko coming back to double up with Doherty, and of course it wasn't a Sissoko who came on for Bale in the end. I think Gareth Bale perhaps could have been doing what he was told, and then when we tried to adapt, it just didn't work as quickly, or maybe Gareth Bale wasn't as keen to do that. But I think if we're talking from first minute, should Gareth Bale be criticised for not tracking back? I'm not sure the blame goes entirely on him, but of course there's 100 different ways of looking at it.
There was an element of a domino effect as well, though, wasn't there, Matt? With Bale not tracking back and Højbjerg having to cover, basically help out Doherty. For me, Højbjerg had his worst game since the opening game of the season. And with that, Højbjerg leaving Tanguy's side, Tanguy was looking around thinking, right, maybe I shouldn't be attacking as much. I should be doing. So there was a consistent domino effect that was happening. You saw Sanchez covering the right back position because Doherty wasn't going back in time because he was up there trying to help Bale, who didn't have the legs yesterday for some reason. So, but like you say, Jose should have picked that out a lot earlier and did something about it.
100%. Look, I have a couple of super chats to get to, and then Bob, I have the next question for you. Tinman 007. Look, Marcelo's not here, so I can't give you the 007 intro. But at the end, he says, at the end of the day, half of these players aren't good enough to go where we want to be, and Jose knows it. But will the board back him in the summer? Look, it's a tricky situation with the debt, the debt that we've accumulated. The loss that we've had to take during the pandemic, it's a very tricky one this summer, and it's one that the board are going to have to think about long and hard. What they want to do, whether they're going to find the money to give to Jose to back and trust him to bring the players in, or they're going to get rid of him come the summer and bring in someone that they think can get players in, but for less money, and let him build the project. It's a tough one, Tin Man. We have Will Stewart here as well. He says, players I want out simply because they are not good enough for league-winning side. Harry Winks, Dyer, Sanchez, Doherty, Aurier, Lamela, Mora, and Sissoko. No, look, 100%. I agree with what you're saying. You could probably cut that in half if we brought in 3 or 4 players. Some of them would become squad players. We wouldn't rely on them as much. But no, I fully agree with you, Will. 100% agree with you. And we have Spandan Samaran. He says Bale was to pen back Tierney, I think, not the other way around. Yeah, no, it was supposed to be like that. I 100% get that, but when it's not happening, and we're not getting the Bale for ball to be able to pin back Tierney, the ball to Bale to be able to pin back Tierney, you kind of have to adapt your game. Like, we're talking about a 30-year-old who's won Champions League, he's won La Liga and stuff like that. So there comes a point where he has to take it on the chin as well, and he has to just maybe adapt his game a little bit to help out his teammate. At the end of the day, it's a team game. You know what I mean? And if there was that great of a team camaraderie there, I have no doubt he probably would have done it. And we have Will Stewart again. Big up, Will. At this level, why should anyone have to cover Matt? Reguilon holds his own. Fair point, Will. I agree with you. Reguilon does hold his own. But at the end of the day, what I would say to you, Will, is you are only as good as your weakest link. And if Doherty is your weakest link, you have to try and allow for that, and you have to help him out. It's that simple. And on that, Will, sorry, go on.
Can I just say on that, if it was 1v1, Doherty shouldn't need cover. But when Bukayo Saka and Kieran Tierney are doubling up on him, then you need a second man to deal with that. And typically, when the left back attacks, it's your right winger who should be tracking back with him. But Doherty, as I do agree, isn't good enough.
Yeah, 100%. Look, he's not good enough. He's not. But at the end of the day, if he's playing, we have to sort something out to give the guy a hand, because we can't just accept that we're going to lose these games because of him. We have to come up with something to help him out. But look, everyone, thank you so much for the super chats. There's loads of people tuning in. There's over 100 people watching. So make sure you get more super chats. Get your super chats in. Like I said, the chat is flying, and also it really helps the achieve his dream. But Bobby, should Jose have substituted Doherty, or could he have switched Bale to the inside and moved Lamela out to the right to help Doherty? Of course, after Lamela came on because the son got his injury.
Yeah. I personally think Lamela should have gone straight into Son's position, because I think we lost quite a bit with Moura moving out wide. Moura's best games of late have come through the middle, and we lost that intensity that he brought in that middle field. Don't get me wrong, of course, in hindsight, Lamela scored, and that was a great tactical move. But after that, before that, I really do think Moura should have stayed in the middle and Lamela out wide. Now, with regards to Doherty, you're not going to like what I'm going to say, Dave. So I personally believe the only reason he wasn't going to, he would have gone off at half time. Just like Fulham. Yeah. Fulham realised what our weak point is, and in the second half, Fulham just went for Doherty. Unfortunately for him, the way Robinson was crossing the ball in, Anderson was finding him constantly down the left, and they were attacking our right-hand side because Parker worked out our weak point. And the same was happening yesterday, and it's quite evident in the first half. I personally think there is a bit of stubbornness in Jose, and I believe the only reason, or one of the reasons, he probably didn't take Aurier off, it would have been a bit of a, I made a mistake. Aurier should have played. Doherty shouldn't have. And I find that I find Jose finds that really hard to do. So I do believe he stayed with Doherty, and the fact he's built him up as well. He's what do you call him the other day? Elegant or excellent, or use a.
I don't know what you called him, but it was deluded anyway. It was only to try and big him up.
That's it. And so I do believe there was an element of, and it shouldn't be that way, but Jose has been known to do something on the field just to show the board and send a personal message out to him. What it does to the team has no concern sometimes for. So I believe a part of him not making a substitution at half time and taking Doherty off was purely down to the fact that if he had done, he would have, in a way, admitted that he got it wrong. And Jose finds it very hard to admit that he was wrong. But we could all see it. Arsenal could see it. Yeah. Us four could see it.
Conversely, though, Bob, a couple of times during his Chelsea tenure, he actually gave players a shepherd's crook after 22, 25 minutes. Which is he's also got form for that. So I don't know. It's just like it'd be nice to have Jose in the middle of the screen here, wouldn't it, tonight? And ask him what his thinking,
that would be great.
Because he has been brave enough to pull players if it's not working after 25 minutes. Yeah. So a real odd one. What that was all about.
I agree.
Maybe Aurier yesterday didn't have 90 minutes in his legs, maybe they, take a little knock or a real fatigue. They've got all these sports scientists there now that are saying, he's really in the red zone here and we could lose him if we play him. And he's only got 20 minutes in his leg, but he's had to put him on the bench. So, and it's not unheard of for football clubs to do that either, is it? To put players on the bench. That's true. But I've no intention of using them, so who knows?
Yeah, 100%. Look, Richard Coffey says here, hey Matt, how do I become a gold member so I can get my point across in the super chat? I'm not sure whether he thinks I'm Matt or whether he knows you're Matt. I don't know whether he's from your stream or not. But look, I'll take this because it's my stream. Look, basically, you don't have to become a member to put in the super chat. There's a button on the super chat. I think it's $sign or something like that. Press that, whatever amount you want to put in. and put your comment across. And if you want to become a member, the description is in the description on the video in the box below, along with all the lads' social medias and their YouTube accounts. So make sure you get down there and get a membership. We have a super chat here from Jordan Stevens and another one to get through. And then I have a great question for you, Mr. Cracknell. He says, Yid Kid has put some comment in a couple of times, so I'll help him out as the chat is flying. Thoughts on the penalty decision, guys? Apparently not a pen. Big up Jordan Stevens, Yid Kid. Yeah, look, I'm sorry, lads. The chat is flying. The super chats are flying in. Super chats obviously take priority. But a big up Jordan Stevens taking one for the Yid Kid. You're an absolute gent. And just for that answer, we're going to get the special guest today, Mr. Cracknell. What's your thoughts on the penalty decision?
You've seen them given, and it was given. Again, there's another decision that's absolutely split people. Now, you've got former pros that are saying, yeah, that's a pen. And then you've got other pros that are saying, no, it's not a pen for me.
Yeah.
A tough one. Do you know if Lacazette actually gets his foot through that, Davinson Sanchez makes a Ledley King-esque block, and the ball goes out. Lacazette's won a penalty because he's so too Bob. That's the problem. He's so terrible. He's shinned the ball, skimmed the ball, and he's ended up going through him. So look, we've got VAR in the game now. I hate it. I absolutely hate it. I just want to. It can get in the sea as far as I'm concerned. Why hasn't the ref gone, let me take a minute and go and review that on the screen and see if I've made the right decision? A tough one. On first look, it looks like a penalty, doesn't it? It really does. On second look, you'd think to yourself, no, hang on a minute. He's made a genuine attempt to play at the ball there. It's just a freak that it's come off of his foot at an angle. And he's not intentionally made the foul. So a real 50-50 one again that you've seen them given. Sometimes the ref goes, no, I've not seen anything in it. So tough one. Just wrong place, wrong time, wrong ref.
100%. Look, in my opinion, I think the game's gone soft. But look, we won't spend too much time on that because I do have a brilliant question I do want to give to Mr. Cracknell. But Tin Man 007 here quickly says, we also badly miss a poor number 10 in this team. We have tried a few options, but never really replaced Eriksen. Lack of creativity. I agree. Look, my personal opinion is Mourinho is trying his best with the players he has to try and create a number 10 and try and make that role effective. Well, I'll pass this one to you quickly, Matt Hayes.
Yeah, I do agree with that. We haven't got that replacement for Christian Eriksen, and look, it's typical Spurs that we tried to sign Christian Eriksen to replace Christian Eriksen. It's that age-old joke after 8 years. Bale has replaced Bale, but there are players in this team who have the quality to be that replacement for Christian Eriksen, and for whatever reason, it's not working. We've Dele Alli, who in the past has shown he can be a goal scorer and a playmaker. It's not working for him. We've Giovanni Lo Celso, who just can't stay fit. And essentially, like, you're looking back at that time when we had Eriksen slotting in behind Harry Kane, and they were the dynamic duo. And essentially, we're in a situation now where Harry Kane is playing both of those roles, and that's not sustainable. He's got 16 goals in the league this season. He's got 13 assists. He's of course second on the goal scorers, top of the assist chart. That's not sustainable, and it's also not ideal for a team who want to be at the level that Spurs want to be at. That there is one player who has been that man, and I think you can also bring into the fact that without Heung-min Son, Harry Kane isn't the same effective player that he is. And we see that. Saw it yesterday when Son was taken off. We've seen it time and time again this season, where in all of these games where he threw away a 1-goal lead for a 1-1 draw, one of the very common denominators is
Son going off.
In those games, the Son was taken off at 1-0 for whatever reason. And the fact that we haven't replaced Eriksen, I'm not sure it's something that's going to be solved anytime soon, and it's a problem we'll continue to have.
100%. I agree with you. There you are, Tin Man. I hope that answers your question, buddy. But look, Mr. Cracknell, a lot of people are questioning Jose's subs from yesterday. I have over the course of this season, but I actually think he got the substitutions right yesterday. Look, unfortunately, Son got injured, but he brought on Lamela, which everyone would have wanted. Everyone would have said he would have been the first name to come on.
Yeah.
And look, that worked out, because when he came on, he set the intensity. The intensity was better, and the press was starting to become effective. And then he took off Bale for Sissoko, And he put an extra body in midfield, which I also thought was correct because the game was screaming out for it. Ndombele, who was in there, right, lads, he was poor yesterday. He was poor. So we needed an extra man to go in there, which Sissoko provided. And it was good game management at the time because he tried to affect the game by bringing Sissoko in to try and get a handle on the game in the middle. Look, Ndombele was awful yesterday as well. And look, the other substitution was Dele Alli. So Sissoko came on for Bale. But when Sissoko came on, what he done is then he also put Lamela on the right-hand side to track back and help out Doherty. And that also worked as well. And then the last... but look, it's not Jose's fault that Sissoko actually came on and just didn't get into the game. He had 14 touches in a North London derby. 14 touches and no tackles. And he was brought on to try and affect the game. Now, you cannot pin that one on Jose. That's not his fault. We all would have sat here and said, we'd rather Sissoko coming on ahead of Winks. Do you know what I mean? So he got that one spot on. And then bringing Dele Alli and taking Ndombele off was spot on as well because just before he was substituted, then Ndombele had the ball in a good position and he kicked it straight back to the Arsenal player. Yep. So he wasn't on the form yesterday, so he took him off. And at that time, Lamela was just sent off as well. So he had to make a substitution to try and affect the game. And it was a positive substitution because, let's face it, if he would have brought on a defender and just accepted defeat or tried to shore it up and get out there with as little defeat as possible, fans would have went mad. So is there a cause to say Jose actually got his substitution spot on yesterday and did try to affect the game with them? Because a lot of fans are saying he didn't get them right.
No, I'll make you right there, but it was the times that he done it. It was just all a bit too late. I thought the Sissoko coming on screamed to me, although Bale was ineffective, but during the game, so I can see why he done it. But the problem you've got is Bale needs that one sniff, that one chance, that 10 seconds. And bang, he's away and it's a goal. He just needs that tiny little window, that one moment of genius. So it looked to me like Jose was just chasing the draw when he brought Sissoko on. I think he was just trying to shore up a little bit, maybe, hopefully, shore the midfield up, give it to Kane up front, just get Kane in and maybe just nick that goal. So it looked like he was going for the
think he was trying to affect the game with the Sissoko substitution to try and get a grip in the middle?
Yeah, he was. But I think it was just a case of them not scoring anymore. Just but maybe us not scoring either. I think it was just try and neutralise the game and let's see if we can get out of here with a draw today. Just because the way everybody else within the team was performing, it was such an off-key performance. So I think he was thinking to himself, if we come away with a draw here today, we've actually done quite well just due to the whole holistic take of the team yesterday. So no, the other substitutions, I'll make you right. He did get them. He did get them right, and nearly paid off in the end, didn't it? Funny how we went down to 10 men, and we actually looked more of an effective unit. We kind of took on a shape that Arsenal couldn't quite cope with them because they were so disciplined to match up to us as an 11. They kind of it took them off kill a little bit, and Kane hits the post towards the end, very very nearly nicked a goal out of it. So no, I can't. Maybe a little bit earlier in the game, but generally I think he reacted correctly to what was unfolding in front of him.
Yeah, and as well, people were saying maybe he should have took off Doherty at half time, but in essence, with how the game panned out and Lamela sending off, he was able to make that substitution after Lamela sending off to try and affect the game. So in essence, you can say in hindsight, he probably got that one right, and he tried to save doing that substitution by putting Lamela out on the right by bringing Sissoko into the middle. So that way Lamela could trap back and help Doherty. So I think in that respect, Jose did try. He basically tried to kill two birds with one stone. That's the expression, isn't it? So for me, I actually think it's good substitutions.
He tried to substitute Doherty without actually substituting him by just putting somebody else in that position. And hopefully, if he can be some sort of effect on the game, Doherty, then it's an added bonus. But putting somebody there as well. So yeah, it was a pretty good move actually in that respect, but ultimately never paid off. Yeah,
100%. I fully agree with you. And we have Will Stewart here. He says, if Sissoko doesn't come on when he did, we lose 4-1 based on the chances in the first half that Arsenal had. You want to take that one, Mr. Cracknell? That's in response to what you were saying.
Yeah, that's a pretty fair point, because he did stop a lot of that marauding through the midfield that was happening. So we certainly cut down on the chances and the threat that we was facing. Whether they'd have got another 2-3 goals is, that's pie in the sky, isn't it? But if you're certainly cutting the chances down, if you don't give a team a chance to get a shot off by cutting them off, in midfield, then yes. Yeah. So, it certainly reduced the risk of losing 4-1, that's for sure.
100%. Well, there you are, Will. I hope you're happy with that. Let us know in the comments if you are. Look, lads, I have a couple more questions to run through. I'm not going to get through them all today, but I'll get through the next couple. And then, look, hopefully, again, we can bring the same panel on for maybe a round 2 and get into why I actually think, all this does still kind of fall back on the board. But anyway, we'll move on. This question is for you, Matty. And the reason why I'm giving it to you is because I know you're a big Ndombele fan. Is Ndombele good enough for the Premier League? And is he worth what we paid for him? Because, he is way too inconsistent in the middle. His fitness is constantly being an issue. But there is also cause to say, is Jose getting the best out of him? And the reason why I say that is because, look, Ndombele, for me, with his fitness issues and everything else, and the way he likes to play, he's a full-on number 10 centre attacking midfielder, in my opinion. He doesn't have the work rate to play the role that Jose is asking him to do. But at the same time, the reason why Jose is trying to play him in there is because we need his passing ability, because Sissoko doesn't have it. So we need his passing ability to try and be on the ball a bit more. But what's your opinion on that, mate?
My opinion is Ndombele. I always said when Ndombele was playing last season that we needed to keep him. We need to give him the chance. He's a very, very young player. He's come from a league that certainly does not have the quality that the Premier League has, and it's always going to take a while for him to adapt and step up to be consistently at a high level in the Premier League. No one is going to deny that he was below our standards, below our expectations last season, but he made a massive step up this season. And what I wanted to look at was why he made that step up, how he went from the inconsistent player that Jose Mourinho called out after the Burnley game at Turf Moor last season to the player that was a pivotal part of our team and was the prime man getting us points earlier on in the season. And for me, the biggest difference is he was playing in a different position. He went from a deeper line midfielder to being in that number 10, being the man who kind of exploited that space that was left when Harry Kane was dropping deep. He was picking up space in between the lines, and he was a man that we were using for his pace and power on the transition. So when I see him struggling in a more central, almost defensive role and thriving in that more attacking role, for me, it simply comes down to the fact that he is better in that attacking position. Now, Jose Mourinho said when just before he moved Ndombele back into the deeper position, he said he now feels as though Ndombele has the fitness to play in a more physically demanding role, and he dropped him a little bit deeper. Now, that says Jose has always seen him as a deeper line midfielder, but perhaps is trying to utilize him in a different way while he wasn't able to deal with the physical demands of playing in that double pivot. So I do think to some degree, the fact that he showed that form earlier in the season, he probably should be playing at a better level now. But it's such a different thing playing in that number 10 role in a defensive team to playing in the deeper double pivot in an attacking team. They're almost completely different positions. And it's going to take a while for him to yet again adapt to a different change in his career, playing in this different thing. Of course, playing with a midfield partner he's never played with before in Pierre-Emile Højbjerg. And I said it before anyone else really did after Ndombele dropped into the deeper roles. I never said he wasn't playing as well, but I said we're not seeing that flair from him. When he's playing that number 10, every time he played, you get that shout every now and then, he's just roulette past this player or he's not like this player. But he's playing in a much more pragmatic position now where he has to be a lot more sensible on the ball. And he can't afford to take as much risk because in the past, he had Højbjerg and Sissoko standing behind him ready to sweep up the mess. But now if he takes that risk and he loses possession, it's Alderweireld and Sanchez. That's a very different situation because once there's only one line of defence there in front of the goalkeeper. So he is having to be he's having to simplify his game a lot. And I think I'm not going to say when he was playing in that attacking role, he was never the most effective player. you'd never say that about him. He was the one who'd turn the game around and take the game by scruff of the neck. I think a lot of the praise that he got and a lot of what he did on the pitch was flair, and it looked better than it was, if that makes sense. And he can't do that anymore now. So we're starting to see kind of the bare fundamentals of his game, and perhaps those are more flawed than we had realised when he was playing in that attacking position. But again, he's a young player. He's adapting to a new team, something that could change in the not too distant future as well. And he just needs to be given time, because we do have to remember as well, he's playing in a team that this season has been really, really struggling for form.
Do we have to take consideration as well, Matt, that he is relatively new to top flight football, from where he's come from, and also his age.
I know, but he's
still a young man as well, mate, isn't he? Sorry, but
his mentality as well is an attacking midfielder. I've read an interview with him, and he said that he likes risk football. He likes to take a chance, and he likes to, sometimes play a ball 9-10 times, or 1 or 2 times it might not come off, but when it does, it will lead to a dangerous attack. So I think his mentality as a person, as a footballer, is to be that attacking midfielder that takes a chance. So I think he's also having to adapt not only his football, but his personality as a football to carry out that more defensive role.
Absolutely.
100%. 100%. I agree with you. But look, lads, I have one more question left for each of you. If we could just give Dan in here with the super chat a quick Jose or Bale. He says, question for the panel. He says, who leaves Spurs, Bale or Jose? Oh, that's a good question. Look, I'm gonna go with Bale. Right.
I think who will leave first and who should leave first are two very, very different questions. But I can see Jose leaving Spurs before Bale.
Interesting. Bobby?
Time will tell, mate. It all depends. If Bale's ripping out for the rest of the season, and Jose has faltering again towards the end of the season, and so far say Jose will go first. But if Jose gets a cup or two in the bag, and Bale has performances that carry on from yesterday, similar to yesterday, then Jose. So I think it's a bit unfair to predict at this moment. Only time will tell.
100%, Mr. Cracknell.
I think they're going to fall in love and elope together and run away together. What a lovely story that would be. It's the lap of the gods, isn't it, really? All I would say is that Daniel Levy's absolutely staked his reputation on Jose Mourinho. He said so in the Amazon documentary. He's the man he's always wanted. Yeah. If Jose fails, Daniel Levy fails, I think, he has to fall on his sword. So I think Jose's going to get backed until he walks, or it's just completely untenable. So let's say on that alone, it will probably be Bale the favourite if he was putting it out to the bookies.
Yeah. No, there you have it, Dan. And I hope you got what you wanted. Bobspur, the next question is for you, my man. Look, as well as Lamela said, as well as Lamela played yesterday, there is. Look, did he cost us North London Derby with you sending off? To be honest with you, that's the question. Because look, before he got sent off, and he knew he was on a yellow card, we were still in the game, and we still could have pulled out the result. So do you think maybe as much blame as Doherty is taken, do you think there's argument to give Lamela that sort of blame as well?
I think he must. I don't know about you guys, but as soon as he got that yellow card, I think we all saw it coming. The way he was playing, the way he plays, you could see the red card coming, and I think you'd be a hardened Lamela fan to turn around and say going down to 10 men against Arsenal yesterday, the way we were playing, didn't cost us the game. Of course it did, mate. You have to be a realist. Going down, playing 11 against 11 was hard enough, regardless of us getting slowly back into the game. But playing 10 against 11, and I think that was a reason, in a weird way, that was a reason why we did attack more in the last 10, 15 minutes. Because Arsenal, it's a mentality thing. You know, there's a myth out there. You play better when you're with 10 men. I think it's a fact. We've always seen it. Always seen it. We had nothing to lose. Arsenal, I think David Luiz kind of picked on it, saying there was a bit of an immaturity to the way Arsenal played towards the end. So they were hanging on to a 2-1. We had nothing to lose. We pushed, and there was bound to be some more spaces opening up. But to turn around, I find it very difficult to turn around and say, no, Lamela going off had no relevance to the game whatsoever. I believe it did. I believe it did. Of course it did.
Yeah. Look, it definitely impacted it. But Will Stewart, that was a question I threw in for you because I know you're a big Lamela fan. So let me know your opinion. But look, Mr. Cracknell, is there still a mentality issue? Because look, if they need a manager, if these players need a manager to motivate them for a North London derby, there definitely has to be some sort of mentality issue. Because lads, I can speak for everyone here. As soon as we woke up yesterday morning, all we could focus on was the derby. It was Mother's Day. You know what I mean? I skipped the family meal to be able to sit there and do everything for the North London derby yesterday. That's how much it means to me. You know what I mean? So if we can get ourselves motivated from that morning, putting on Spurs chants and ignoring the mothers and the wives and everything else, and the partners and all that sort of stuff, like, what is there a mentality issue with these players? Because a lot of these players also bottled League Cup final against Chelsea under Pochettino, League Cup semi-finals, FA Cup semi-finals, 2 league run-ins, Champions League final. We were top of the league this year. We had a chance to go top 4 yesterday. Is there a massive mentality issue at the club?
Yeah, I think there is. And I think what makes it even worse is, again, yesterday pre-game when we was having our clubhouse meeting, I said that Spurs actually have more players that get what the derby means. Harry Kane, absolutely, born and bred Tottenham boy. Bale's been there before, so he knows all about the game. Eric Dyer, there's, half of that team have been there a while. Sonny, they know what that game means. And I said there's probably less players at Arsenal that kind of get just how important it is. Obviously, they understand the concept of derbies. And that's what made it even more bizarre and even more galling. And I think mentality is probably the hardest thing to change in a footballer and at a football club. And I think Jose is actually trying to do that, but it takes a hell of a lot of time, and it takes bringing in your own personnel. And I mean, we've seen it with Højbjerg. You kind of get the idea that Højbjerg gets that mentality. He seems to have that right mindset, but there is others there that just are just not going to step up in the mentality to match a footballing ability. So there's absolutely a mentality problem at the club, but there has been for a long while. It's weird. It's one of those, I don't know, maybe the Spurs ground was built on an old native Indian burial ground or something. It's just this weird curse, because it does. The managers that we've had, players that we've had, there's always been this problem to step up and go that last little bit. Maybe it's a trickle down from the mentality of the board. There seems to be that little lack of mentality to go that extra little mile, that extra little bit, take a chance and bring those 2 or 3 players in that we desperately need. And maybe that just filters right down through the club. So maybe we're a little bit to blame as well as fans, because, we always go, oh, we know how this is going to end up today, don't we? I'm guilty of it myself. I made a silly joke a bit earlier. The Zagreb manager, I don't think is going to be in the technical area on Thursday night, because he's been charged on Monday and he's now got to go to jail for 4 years, which means the club now have to sack him within 8 days. And I said it would just be so Tottenham for him to manage the team from a prison cell and beat us, how Tottenham would do. But that's, and that's the fan mentality, and it's almost become ingrained as a dark humour in us as well. So I don't know. Lots to be put right on the mentality front.
100%, I agree with you. It's on both bases. It's from the fans and it's from the players. We all need to instill a better mentality into this football club, a winning mentality. That's what we need to put into them. And to be honest with you, I actually started to think that it does belong to us fans, because we have to remember the likes of the manager, everyone involved with the club, the players, they look at social media, and if they see us, sitting there saying, oh, this, that, and the other, and going into games with weak mentality, that also rubs off on them, So we have to start instilling a better mentality as a fan base as well. But look, I'm going to give you the last question, Matt, or the second last question, and then I'm just going to ask all of you, do you think we're going to make top 4? And then we'll end it off there. But Matty, and it's basically what Will Stewart was saying as well, do you think that Harry Kane was fit going into this North London derby? Or do you think he was still carrying a knock?
I think the question of whether or not he was fit isn't as important as the question of whether or not he was confident in his own fitness, if that makes sense, because he's had a lot of recurring ankle injuries, and when you're just coming back from an injury, you're never going to be at 100%. Those challenges that you might usually fly into, you might hold back from 1 or 2 because you're scared that you might kind of worsen the knock or something like that. I think there is, of course, the chance that he wasn't fully fit because of the comments Jose Mourinho made straight after that Zagreb game that said, he's going to want to play this game no matter what. And I think we'll find out in the coming weeks if he is selected as consistently. If he does, pick up another knock in training or something like that, I think then we will know that it has been a case of him being rested a bit too early. But I think it was a risk that we had to take regardless, because imagine if Harry Kane was 50-50, be put on the bench and we lost this game. Fans will be calling for Jose Mourinho's head right now. And I think Jose knows he is in that very precarious situation whereby any tiny decision he makes will be scrutinized to the last because of the failures that he is having at the club. So it would not surprise me if Kane wasn't fully fit, but if he's 50-50, if he was 80-20, I think he still had to start that game yesterday.
100%. I fully agree with you. But look, lads, it's your last chance to get your super chats in, the questions for the panel, and also get your super chats in and basically tell us how much you enjoyed it, and show your support to take this channel to the very, very top of the YouTube game. But we're going to start with you, Bob. We're going to work our way back around. Is top 4 still on?
We have to improve, don't we, Dave, against these the top 10. We haven't won against a side in the top 10 since October, November now. I think November. We need to improve that. We need to improve that. If we are going to challenge for our top 4, I mean, top 4, the only reason what gives me hope is the fact that the teams above are seeing consistent. Liverpool have won tonight. So obviously that's not a great result, but they are dropping points. The teams above us are dropping points, and we need to take confidence from that.
Yeah,
I think moving forward, we need to show the attacking intent that we've showed the previous 5 games against the better teams. And if it doesn't work out, at least we can lose a game by trying. What I don't want is to go out with a whimper like we did yesterday without even trying, because we didn't. So can we get top 4? Yes, we can. Of course we can. Mathematically, of course we can. Will we get top 4? If we don't improve, then no. But if we can, and Jose sorts it out, yes, of course. Without attack, I've always said this to you, matey. Without attacking flair we have, there's no reason why we couldn't win 2 cups and get a top 4. No reason whatsoever. It's all about 100%. What we do on the pitch. 100%. It's all down to what we do. Yeah.
Richard?
I think a lot of it relies on other teams having a bit of a mare above us. I think we need 1 or 2 of them to have a bit of a slump, because unless that happens, we can't make any ground on them. But that doesn't mean that we absolutely shouldn't try whilst it's still absolutely possible. So it just needs the players to take Roger Daltrey and McVicker's mentality when all the prison warders come into his cell like 6-7 hand and he said, I won't win this fight, but I'm going to be the best second you've ever seen. So, that's what we need to do. We absolutely need to try and now every last point that's now. What's there? 30 points, I think. Maybe 10
games left. Yeah,
10 games left. 30 points.
we have to go for every one of those 30 points and then see where it takes us. If we do that, we absolutely, we'll fly it, because others around us, well, just by sheer fact that we actually play some of them, will mean that we can make it. So it's going to be tough. It's going to rely on others failing, but let's see.
100%. Just quickly, we have Will Stewart here. He says, no way Kane and Son have mentality issue for Arsenal. Look, I wouldn't say them do, but there are definitely others that definitely do. But big up Will for the super chat, and everyone else, get your super chats in before we end off to show your appreciation for the panel and the guests here today. But Matty, do you think we can get top 4?
A lot needs to change for that to happen. We're 6 points behind Chelsea. We're sitting in 4th at the moment. There's 2 stats that really worry me. The first one is that since we beat Arsenal in December to go top of the Premier League table, we've played 8 teams who were at the time in the game sat in the top half of the table, 7 in the league, and then 1 Everton in the FA Cup. We've lost all 8 of those games, and we've also lost 9 games in the Premier League this season, which is the joint most Jose has ever lost in a league campaign. Yeah. That's not good. Aside from the obvious, that is deeply, deeply concerning, and that mentality. That's my job. That kind of mental block that we seem to have when we come into positions where we can make up ground on our opponents. Spurs have always done it. I remember one of the very first games I remember watching Spurs against Manchester City back in, was it 2012 maybe? We had a chance to go top of the table in February, and we ended up losing 3-2 to Balotelli, a penalty in the last minute after he stamped on Scott Parker's head. And it's just continued on since then. Chelsea drew with Leeds, Everton lost at home to Burnley, West Ham lost away to Manchester United. We were playing before Liverpool. It was a brilliant chance to make up some ground, even if it was just for 24 hours, to put some daylight between ourselves and Liverpool, and that kind of mental sort of positive effect that it would have, just seeing us higher up that table for whatever period of time, and we just can't do it. I honestly don't think we will get into the top 4 this season. Of course, it's realistic, it's possible. I think a lot of it depends on the severity of Heung-min Son's injury. But for now, if I'm Jose Mourinho, I'm looking at Europa League, and that's all I want.
Yeah, well, look, I agree with you. But for me, guys, I'm always the optimist. I'm still going to believe we can get top 4. Look, all it takes is another 2-3 game run for us, a 2-3 game bad run for Chelsea, and we're back. You know what I mean? Anything can happen this season. We've seen it time and time again. We've talked about win the league, not win the league. We're well out of top 4. All of a sudden, we're back in it. So anything can happen. But look, some call me deluded, some call me optimistic. But you can call me what you want. I could be right come the end of the season. Super chat here from Spandan Samran. Who here is a millionaire and still needs to be motivated? Why players can earn millions and still need to be motivated for every match? I 100% agree with you. Look, for me, I think it's time that they start cutting some of the salaries and put in better performance bonuses, win bonuses, things like that, to improve individual players' games. I do think that could be a way around it for some of these clubs to start getting some of these millionaire basically get their asses out of bed and get them out onto the pitch and perform and do what they're supposed to do. But look, lads, we're going to end it off here. Look, honestly, we could sit here and chat all night. I've really, really enjoyed this discussion. I hope all of you two, all the House Army out there have. I hope the guests have. But before we sign off, we're going to let everyone plug their social media and whatever they need to plug. Matt Hayes, we'll start with you.
Look, I'm sure everybody in this channel knows who I am at this stage, but if you don't already, head over to my YouTube channel, Matt Hayes Tottenham blog, for Tottenham watch-alongs, live recordings of the Tottenham Fan Voice podcast, match previews, reviews, any content you could want from a Spurs channel. And yours truly, David Harris, you'll see his face pop up there quite a bit. If you want to follow me on Twitter, it's there below me, at Matt Hayes THFC, and the Tottenham Fan Voice podcast on all of the podcast networks. So make sure to go over and follow me there as well. Cheers, David, as well, for having me on.
No worries, and brilliant. I promise you won't regret it. Everyone get over to Matt Hayes' channel, check it out, get a member, make sure you subscribe. Mr. Cracknell, what do you need to promote?
Nothing much really, just health and well-being to everybody. So no, I'm at Mr. Cracknell on social medias, Twitter and Facebook and Mumsnet and Reddit and Friends Reunited and terrible dad jokes. Yeah, Babe Station. Yeah, terrible dad jokes, but great hair for a man of 50. Look at that, 51.
I have to say, you do make me jealous. That is a good head of hair. There's plenty of people that would love that at that age. I can tell you that.
Yeah, a little bit on Last Word of Spurs as well. I'd sort of guest host that from time to time and on the panel and on Clubhouse, but I'm still getting my head round that. So, but I do that with Ant Costa. We do a bit of Clubhouse, so have a look at that if you're on an iPhone. And other than that, just silly nonsense on social media. So thank you very much. Just everyone keep safe and well, please.
There you go, guys. Brilliant put by the wonderful Mr. Cracknell. And we'll pass it on to Bobby here now. Bobby, what do you need to promote?
Yeah, I'm new to the whole YouTube world. I'm Bobspur TV, looking at all lighter things in life, especially when it concerns Tottenham. The main man on there, I'm sure May will agree with me, I know, is Bobspur Jr., my little 6-year-old, who comes on and gives his opinions, his stats, facts, and previews and reviews games as well. So yeah, it's great fun. Obviously, when we need to be serious, we'll be serious. But yeah, Bobspur TV. I'm on Twitter as well at Bobsy73. To pop over, I've checked my videos out, and yeah, like and subscribe. Bobspur Junior normally does this bit, like subscribe it. Is well way past his bedtime, so I have to do his job.
No, look, 100%. Everybody get over there, check him out, give him a subscribe, give him a leg up, give him a help in the YouTube game. Bobby, I wish you the best of luck with it. The Harris Army out there, it's been a pleasure. There's been so many people tuning in. We've had a constant over 100 people tuning in throughout the stream. I hope to bring the exact same panel back again, basically, to stem on from this and talk a bit about the board, the summer, what plans, stuff like that. I want to say thank you so much to these guys for giving up their time late this evening. The Harris Army, I want you to get in the comments and say thank you so much as well. But until next time, you know, oh, sorry, quickly, what's coming up this week? How dare I? Sorry, Harris Army, I'm cutting you short. What's coming up this week? We have Abby Summers' Tottenham story coming out tomorrow. You do not want to miss that. That's a great one. We also have a members call-in show coming out coming tomorrow. Wednesday, we have the Zagreb preview. Thursday, I'm on the Matty Hayes channel doing the watch-along for the Zagreb game. Friday is the review. And then we go into the Premier League weekend. So, look, guys, thanks very much for tuning in. Thank you so much to these guys. Until next time, stay safe. Come on, you Spurs. And in Jose, we trust.